Hi everyone. So today I want to share a little bit about my experience with a friend who dated a narcissist. Um First off, this video might be a little bit intense emotionally, but I just wanted to share my experience as a bystander, as a friend of someone who allowed herself to get verbally abused. Um I just wanted to share that. It was a very difficult experience seeing the loved ones in your life get hurt emotionally, um, by someone they're dating. I told her, like, honestly, when you date someone who is verbally or physically abusive, you're not only hurting yourself, you are hurting everyone around you. So, I understand that, like, people are broken and they don't know what they deserve, but you have to realize that you're also hurting the people around you by dating someone who is abusive or a narcissist. And in my experience, it was just very dramatic. Like, there was no emotional boundaries. So, I remember calling her one time and this guy was like screaming, like, "Don't talk to her. You need to spend more time with me." And I was like traumatized because I'm like, who is this guy? Like he's like screaming and yelling. And what caught me off guard was she laughed and she thought that was normal and funny. And like looking back, I'm like, that was not funny. That was abusive. That was controlling. And more so, um, he was jealous and he talked crap about me even though I've never met him before. And like he was controlling of her and who she hung out with. And for some reason, like she didn't see it. And I understand, like I've been there because I've been young. I'm 32 now, so I know like what I deserve. So I've been, young and stupid. Like we've all been there, but at one point you have to realize like if that person is yelling at you, telling you that you're not spending enough time with her after spending 10 hours him after 10 hours of like spending time with that person and they still think it's not enough and that you're basically not allowed to hang out with your friend. I remember one time like the Lord told me like, ask her for a ride and I was at the airport, right? So I called her and then the guy she was seeing, the narcissist, basically said, "Oh, um like we had this day planned, you can't pick her up." And she was like, "Oh, I really want to, but I can't because he doesn't want me to." So, like, in my mind, I'm like, "Girl, you need to think for yourself." And it's like if our hearts are messed up, our hearts are broken, and if our soul is broken, we're gonna be attracted to people who are abusive or controlling. And like in that situation, in all of that, like because like I've never been in that kind of situation, I was really like, what do I do? Like, so I was just like, because of compassion and love for her and care for her, like I like talked to her through it and I talked to her about the guy and I try to help her. And like the last month of that relationship, like I kept telling her, like, God is telling you, like, you need to leave that guy. And she would be like, "Oh, yeah, but, blah, blah, blah." And then she'd keep hanging out with him. And, like, God was like, "Give her a month." And why am I even talking about this? I'm not talking about it to, like, bag on anyone. I'm not talking about it to, like, destroy anyone's image because 'cause I'm not even naming names or anything like that. But honestly, like, this needs to be addressed because it's very hurtful to the friend of the person who is dating that abusive person. Because like I had this vision, like, okay, she's like in an alley and she's getting beaten up by say like a drug dealer, right? So I go in and help, and guess what happens? I get beat up by the drug dealer. That's what happened to me. And so I was trying to help her, but then I'm getting hurt because she's hurting herself. And like, you know what I mean? It's like now I'm the one getting beat up by the drug dealer. And that's how intense and crazy it gets when you are friends with someone who is open to abuse and who doesn't know her self-worth. And like, honestly, like a big part of me wanted to just like not be friends with her after that, or like I really wanted to shut down my heart and just feel like, hey, I need to move on because it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy, and you need to be friends with people who are on your level and who understand their self-worth, so you're not dragged into the mud, right? And getting abused with that person, you know. It's just like, it's okay. It's like if you're living in a house with a drug addict, right? And then they're inviting like pimps and whatever, like drug dealers, like thugs into the house, and you're in the house with them. What kind of environment are you inviting into your life if you're inviting that kind of spirit into your atmosphere? So like, whatever friends that you have, like, you're gonna be emotionally attacked or spiritually attacked in that way. So it's like, that's why God says, like, don't sit with a seat of scorners. Like, don't hang out with people who are like intentionally inviting things into your life that is abusive, controlling, narcissistic, because you're going to be affected by whatever they're going through and they're dealing with, you know? And it's like, that was just like a really hard moment, honestly, like a few months of my life. And it's taught me to protect my heart and protect my boundaries. And um like, yeah, sure, I was helping her and everything, but like it really affected me. And of course the enemy will always use that to turn friendships against each other, but I'm not going to let that do that. But I am going to learn to set emotional boundaries. Hey, you know, if you want to date someone who is abusive, that's on you. Like, I'm not going to get involved. I'm not going to try to help you. I can tell you what God is saying, but like, if you're being rebellious, like, that's on you, you know? And like, you know, it's like, okay, I forgive both. Like, you know, I forgive both persons, but I'm not gonna sit there and be like, "Oh, that was cool, like, I'm okay with it." No, I wasn't. And honestly, like, my heart is still a little bit shut down from it. Like, I'm like, "I can't deal with that kind of situation anymore." So, because, like, I haven't had, like, a close friend deal with that kinda issue, like dating someone who is abusive or narcissistic, I really didn't know how to deal in that situation, but I did tell her what God was saying, which is, "Hey, leave that person. Leave that person. Leave that person. Leave that person." And I know that when it comes to affections of the heart, a lot of people are not going to want to leave because their heartstring is already tied to the other person. And so I've had to, like, I've gone on dates with people that God's just like, "No, he's not it." And I know that my heart is drawn to that person, but my spirit is like, "Hey, he's not the one. He's not the husband. He's not the wife." So are you going to trust God enough to break it off? Are you going to trust God enough to say, "Hey, I trust you, God. I trust your choice for me, and I'm not going to compromise my values and my beliefs and my goals to be with someone just because my heart is like, oh, I want that person." Because essentially, like, your heart will want to be with the person that you feel comfortable with, but your spirit is like, hey, you deserve better. So, God, I just pray right now for those who are dating abusive people or narcissists, that they would open their hearts and minds to you, God, that they would obey you, God, to submit to your spirit and not to their flesh. Because times, like, we might think something is okay. If your mother or father like yelled at you, you might think, hey, that's okay, I can just like deal with it. My mom was pretty, like, she yelled a lot and she would accuse me of things. And like, my dad was emotionally and physically absent. So I was like, I thought that was a normal thing to live with, like, hey, like a boyfriend who would ghost for 3 days. But like, now I'm seeing that's not very healthy. You know, like a guy who doesn't understand how to communicate, that's not healthy at all. And so I pray that for all of you that you'd be able to understand how it feels to actually be loved and to communicate how you feel with your significant other. There's a lot of things that we think is okay because of our parents and how they raised us, but a lot of it is not okay because it's neglect, it's abuse, it's control, it's fear. It's a fear-based relationship. So, um, yeah, I mean, I wanna talk definitely more about dating and, um, just, like, what I've gone through as well, but I just wanted to come out and tell you about it and just, like, okay, my advice for a friend of someone who is dating a narcissist or abusive person, tell them what God is saying. Tell them, like, how you see things, and they might be, like, offended, they might be hurt, but, like, that's the truth. Like, "Girl, you're getting abused. Girl, that guy is controlling you. Girl, it's hurting me because now he's coming at me and accusing me of things or trying to control you so that you're not even seeing any of your friends." First, like, tell them how you feel. Second of all, like, freaking, like, set boundaries. Like, "Hey, I already told you, like, don't be coming at me and telling whining about him, complaining about him, bitching about him, making excuses for him, and then, like, then come crying to me because I already told you to leave him." So, it's just like you like, as a friend of a person who is dating a narcissist, it's like, "Dude, like, hello?" Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, at one point, it's like, then I was getting dragged into this drama. I was doing ministry, but I was getting, like, dragged into this drama, and I wasn't able to focus. I wasn't able to have fun or to feel joy because I was consumed with trying to get her out of this relationship while she purposely kept going back to him, kept seeing him, and I understand it's the enemy trying to trap her because that's what the enemy does. But at the end of the day, you still have a choice of like, am I gonna trust God and follow his ways? Am I gonna listen to his voice? Or am I gonna listen to the enemy and the flesh? You know, and it's like at one point you can't keep blaming the devil. You need to say to yourself, am I being disobedient to God and am I allowing myself to be in a relationship that's abusive and then crying to God and crying to people because I put myself there and I keep putting myself there. I keep allowing that person to abuse me because abuse is not always like a lot of people are like, "Oh, I feel so bad, like, that woman is getting abused." It's like, a lot of times that woman is going back to that abuser and saying, "Oh, abuse me," because that's how I understand love, and that is not love, my friends. So, yeah, I think, like, watching that, like, really made me passionate and angry about this, situation in anyone's lives, and I'm pretty sure to tell you the truth, like, "Hey, look, you need to get out of this relationship that is hurting you and hurting me," you know? And at one point, then you have to set that boundary and be like, "Hey, okay, I don't wanna hear about this person anymore because I God said," and then it's your job to carry that baggage and say, "Hey, God, I'm gonna follow you. I'm gonna listen to you," you know? And so, because we don't trust God, we don't follow him and his ways, is we continue to hurt ourselves because we don't trust God. And God's like, I already told you, like, get out of that relationship. So, God, I just pray right now, just revelation and wisdom and just enlightenment over people who are struggling with getting out of an abusive relationship. Please just leave and go find like a family member or a friend who can help you. And like, you need to just cut it off. I'm telling you, like, I've gone out of a lot of relationships, actually, like, like one serious one. And at first, I tried to take a break, but it didn't work, you know, because I was like sad. I'm like, why am I doing this? So I just cut it off. I just cut it off. Like, A lot of things you literally just need to cut it off. If you wanna quit something, you need to cut it off. You can't linger around, be stalking them on Facebook, be stalking them on Instagram. You can't be messaging them. You can't be talking to them. You literally need to starve your soul from that person. And I'm speaking from experience. Like, you cannot be dabbling again. Like, if you're trying to quit drugs, you can't be hanging out in a den house full of drug users. If you're trying to quit alcohol, don't go to bars. It's like don't make excuses and then go into another narcissistic relationship even though you see the red flags. This is your life. You have a limited amount of time on this earth. Why do you want to be abused? And it's like, I pray that the Lord will show you that you're worthy of love. Like, don't allow yourself to waste any more time with people who don't appreciate you. Okay, let me write this down. Don't waste any more time with people who don't appreciate you. So someone can say, "Oh, I really appreciate you," right? Like, they can say all these words, but if they don't act like it, that's not really love. They can say, "Oh, I love you," and all this, and then like send you to a room to be abused. That is not that is not love. That is not, let that person's actions speak louder, right? And like, at one point you're gonna say, hey, like, is that friend really acting like they love me, or are they just saying it, and then continue to make excuses. So like, there's grace, forgiveness, right? But you need to keep people around you in your inner circle. You They're not gonna keep abusing you and then make excuses and say, I'm really sorry. Hey, a friend should treat me a certain way, and I've been learning, like, that's my self-worth, and I'm not gonna allow people, my close friends, to act like that towards me. And yeah, so anyways, so there's a difference between love and then setting boundaries. Because love, so you can say, "Oh, I'm gonna be loving and nice to this person who is abusive." That's not love. That's not loving yourself. Right? So I see a lot of Christians in churches that are like, we're called to love people. And then they let themselves be doormats, like complete doormats, and see them overwhelmed, exhausted, emotionally unstable because they're allowing other people to just step on them. Just step on them. Like, oh, we're called to love. Let me be a doormat and let me be stepped on. That is not love, my friends. Like, God calls us to honor ourselves, to love ourselves, and to not be stepped on by people. Like, Jesus didn't, you know why he died on the cross and got beaten up 100 times? It's because he took the beating for us so that we don't need to be beat up anymore. Blood, I was beaten up and abused, and Jesus was verbally abused by people for you. People yelled at him and stuff, but he did that just once on the cross. He didn't allow that kind of behavior around his circle group, his inner circle. Do you see Jesus like allowing people to like talk crap about him or whatever, like, in his inner circle? No, he had Peter, he had John. Like, they respected him. They treated him like, I mean, he is God, but honestly, like, I'm not saying your friends are supposed to treat you like God, but like, they're supposed to treat you with respect, right? And it's like, Jesus didn't allow people to beat him to a pulp every day. He did that once on the cross for you, for all of you. So don't keep letting people treat you like crap because you think, oh, I'm supposed to suffer all the time because I'm Christian, because God called me to love people. It's like, no. Like, Esther spoke up for herself. Like she demanded what she deserved. Are you doing that in your life? Or are you using false humility to disguise a feeling of unworthiness? Okay, so yeah, that's not love. So I pray, dear Heavenly Father, that God, you would open their eyes in Jesus' name and just heal them from past wounds and past hurts in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to my blog, subscribe to my channel, and if you like, to give love donation to this ministry. God bless you. Bye. Love you.